Over the years, our beautiful city, Washington, D.C., has developed into a large, multicultural society. There are so many career opportunities that draws people to this beautiful DMV area. Tourists travel from far and near to see the National Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and many historical museums. And you can find any type of food you desire in these diverse localities. But underneath all the beautiful and charmed attractions, there's people like you and I that struggle from day to day with normal issues. There's also people in the DMV area that suffer from anxiety, PTSD, depression, and other mental health issues. Some issues are caused by traumatic incidents, and some issues are caused from daily situations that we find ourselves stumbling into just by living our normal lives. We are often taught as children to watch what you say or don't talk too much. But right now and today, we are stopping the silence. DMV Madam D is here to tell you you are not alone. And this is your platform to help stop the silence. We will discuss daily issues in which we all struggle with as regular people who simply just want to live in content and comfortable in our normal lives. Do not feel the need to keep your mouth covered about your emotions and feelings. It's okay to not be okay. So uncover your mouth, DMV, and welcome Madam D in Stopping the Silence.
Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of Stopping the Silence. And today's topic is God can do anything but fail. And I'm just excited to have Mrs. Sage Thomas here. Welcome to Stopping the Silence. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I know this delay is crazy, so I'm sorry. But I'm doing well. Just came out of
Okay.
therapy and feeling pumped. Excited to be here.
Oh, all right. And I'm so excited to have you, Sage. So tell us about yourself.
I am a junior here at Regent University in Virginia Beach. I'm currently in my dorm right
Yeah.
now. We got classes starting at the end of the month. Um, and
Okay.
yeah, I've been going to Regent all my college years so far, and I love it here. I love living on campus,
Mm-hmm.
and I love college life.
Yeah. So what are you studying?
I'm studying cinema television with a minor in international studies, aka
Oh, so tell
film.
us about that.
So the kind of the motivation behind my studies is I want to be a documentary filmmaker for like organizations that raise awareness for important causes. So for example, like
Oh,
International Justice Mission is an organization I'd love to partner with one day that does like human trafficking work around the world. I want to do documentaries for
awesome.
organizations like that, for ministries, for missions. Kind of that field is where I want to go. Not really the Hollywood
Oh,
route. It's not what
yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
go for, but
Yeah. Something's going to help people.
yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for your passion. That's important. And it's interesting to find someone such as yourself in your age bracket that's willing to do something like that, is get out of the Hollywood atmosphere. So thank you for that.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
give the
So,
desire to
so you're a
myself.
junior, right?
I can't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm a junior. I said I can't take credit. The desire did not come from me.
Uh, but it's good to nurture it, you know. It's a blessing to have that
Yeah.
will to move forward and be obedient. So thank you, Sage. All right, let's get
Yeah.
into it. All right. So, has there ever been a time in your life that you doubted God?
Yes, I doubt God quite often because my brain automatically just is like, well, if this is going wrong, then what's up with God? But I think that's pretty normal. I'm not always God is good,
Mhm.
hallelujah, 24/7.
Right,
So
right.
I was the biggest times in my life where I doubted God was my senior year of high school. I'm getting ready to prepare to go to college. My mom had recently retired from her full-time job, and
Okay.
that put quite a financial strain on things, because preparing
Yeah.
for college costs a lot of money, like applying and like doing all these different things. It all
Yeah.
costs money. And so I kind
Mhm.
of was like, Mom, that was really bad timing for you to go and retire like in the middle of my senior year. So like that was one thing. And then we had to move in with my grandma and all these different things that kind of created an environment of stress leading up to me just
Yeah.
applying for college. And I really didn't have that many colleges on my list. It was mainly between William and Mary and Regent, and that I was
Mhm.
finally like deciding between. And I had been doubting God's hand in the situation basically from the beginning of my senior year. I had received a prophecy my senior year that my college would basically be paid for in like its totality.
Wow.
Like I would graduate debt free was basically the word that I received. And I definitely had my doubts because I was like, okay, God, well, my mom just quit her job, so money's not coming from her. My dad is very much like, he put into my brother and I, you're gonna like work, like earn what you go after. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna pay for everything
Right.
for you. So I
Mhm.
didn't have that. And so it was kind of like, college is
Yeah.
expensive. Where's the money gonna come from? Because it doesn't seem like my parents are gonna be helping me much. So I
Right.
definitely went into this big ball of stress, and I was doubting. I really was doubting that word because I was like, Lord, maybe that prophet was just on something and he just said that out of nowhere. And I was like, but so in my mind, I was in the midst of doubting God. I didn't take into consideration praying over my college decision. And so then I took it into my own hands to figure out which school was best for me. And so I
Yeah.
verbally committed to William and Mary before even like considering Regent, because I was like, well, that's obviously the better school. Like everyone in the country would say William and Mary is the better school. Go to the better school. It's more well known. It's more prestigious. It's blah 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 blah. You think you're
Yeah.
gonna get it, so just go. And I had verbally
Mhm.
committed to William and Mary because I was like, well, I didn't even think I was gonna get into the school, so that must be God because
Mhm.
blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask him. I just
Yeah.
assumed, and so they didn't even offer me any money, so I don't know why I like was saying that. But it got to be the weekend before I had to put my first deposit in, and I just did not feel an ounce of peace at all. And so
Oh.
all that time I've been doubting God, and I was like, well, I'm gonna take this into my own hands since you clearly don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna take this into my own
Mhm.
hands, but I did not feel peace about the situation. And so I like called some of my leaders and like I asked for them to pray for me and like all this stuff. And they were like, well, if you don't feel peace about something, it's probably not the
There's a
right
reason.
choice. And so I was like,
Right.
oh, right, that part. And so, long story kind of short, I ended up
Mhm.
switching, and I I put in my deposit for Regent, and not just because it was a
Mhm.
Christian school, but one, because all of the doors were opening up at Regent. Like I was having scholarship
Mm.
after scholarship after scholarship that I
Yeah.
was ignoring because it wasn't coming from the
Mhm.
school I wanted to go to. And so I was like, well, God, what's
Right.
up with that? Um, and so I had been like ignoring those things the whole time because I was just so consumed with what God wasn't doing for me. And
Yeah.
after praying about it and talking to some people about it, it just made more sense for what I want to do with my future. And so I ended up going to Regent kind of grudgingly. But now that I'm
Yeah.
here, I'm so thankful that I made that decision. And it's like thing after thing after thing after thing has been like, God, thank you for redirecting me, even though I was a
Yeah.
hot mess, because I know that I made the right choice. And the
Yeah.
word that he gave me
Regent is a
my senior
beautiful
year of high
school.
school, yes, it is. It's an amazing school. The word that he
Mhm.
gave me has been coming to pass, and so he's still providing.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. I actually wanted to go to Regent as well, but things didn't go, the planned. But that's a great
Yep.
school, and I'm happy that you doors were open for you, so that's good. As a college student, what has been a huge struggle for you as a believer?
I mean, even though Regent is a Christian university, it's still subject to error. It's still subject
Of
to
course.
temptation. It's subject to
Yeah.
all these different things. I mean, maybe not to the same extent as like a regular university, but there's still struggles. And so one of the biggest things that I have struggled with since being in college is honestly, as cliche as it sounds, staying true to myself, because in a
Yeah.
Christian environment, you can easily start to kind of like rank or categorize people and be like, oh, these people like really, they're tight with God and they like got it going on. And then, you put yourself on some sort of list. That's just one example. But you kind of start to compare like
Yeah.
spiritual maturity and like all these things. Like, what?
Yes. Yes.
And so staying true to myself
Mm-hmm.
and understanding my relationship with God is for me and not for anybody else, and not letting
That's right.
anybody else's words or anybody else's actions like dictate what I'm going to do with my walk with God, has been huge. And also just figuring out what my walk looks like being at a Christian university, because it doesn't have to look like what has been the norm, at the school. Because there is very much a Regent norm. There is. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying it's very easy to just hop in the bandwagon and keep trekking. And you'll make it
Yes.
far in the Regent world doing that.
Of
But
course.
that can't be what I'm basing my identity on, is my positions in campus
Right.
ministries and my everything. But it's very easy to do that because you're like, well, I'm following the Lord. It's like, well, no, you're following other people who are following the Lord. And
Yes.
so then it's very easy to lose yourself in the midst of that, trying to fit in with what everyone else is doing. So that's been a big struggle for
Yeah.
me, just making sure that I'm like, is this authentic to me, or is this me trying to meet someone else's expectation of what I should be doing?
Yes.
And so I'm always trying to have that in the back of my mind, making sure authenticity is what I'm operating from, because I don't want to
Yes.
get anything else.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree, Sage. And I think it's important too, as believers, to have our relationship with God and have our private time. I mean, private time, like you pray in your own room and you worship in your own room. So that way it will help eliminate some of that, what you're saying about trying to compare your relationship with God or your worship. No, it's important for you to keep that relationship with God one-on-one. In addition, because I'm not saying you don't pray and worship with other people. I'm just saying it's important for us to still keep that one-on-one time with God, because God can do a lot of refining with you when you're more one-on-one, because it eliminates the outside sources at times.
Yeah.
So how do you manage your prayer life and still have a social life?
So the managing side of things is something I am still working on every single day.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. I have fallen short time and time again, in
Girl, we all
prioritizing
have.
my time with God.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a priority, but then my actions just don't speak that. So in my
Yeah.
college schedule, it's so caught up with work, school, work, school, work,
Yes.
school. And then
Yes.
at Christian university, you've got ministry time put into that. So you almost think that you don't have to spend as much time doing things on your own,
Yeah.
because you've got rehearsal with the worship team, you've got life group, you've got chapel, you've got all this stuff. And it's like, well, no, like that's not feeding me
Yeah.
in the same way as it is when I'm by myself. That should be an added thing, not the only thing. And so
Yeah.
I often found myself getting so busy with doing the good things that balance got thrown off. So for what I've
Yes.
been trying to prioritize now is like putting time with God in my schedule as though it's like a class. And so if
Yeah.
I set off time in my day as though it's something just as important, if like obviously more so, but like just as significant because it needs a spot on my calendar, on my schedule for the day, that I'm going to spend time with God,
Yeah.
you know, here when I have free time, then I'm able to like prioritize it better. And I understand that every day is different. You're not always going to be able to like plan exactly when, or like something might come up or
Right.
something like that. But at least if I have in the back of my mind, like during this time, this is what I'm going to try to do, it starts to become more of a habit. So that's something that I'm currently working on trying to do. Because
Yeah.
I don't love routine. And so I'm not necessarily one to like do the exact same thing the exact same time every day. Some people do need that
Yeah.
structure and that order though. So like if that's for you, you know, say every
Mm-hmm.
morning at 7 a.m. I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna spend time with God. But then at the same time, that doesn't have to look the same every day just because it's at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
And so prayer, I definitely try to prioritize because again, I get so caught up doing all these ministry things, but I'm like not remembering to pray until I'm like desperate. I'm like, well, this is a problem. Like, I should
Yeah.
have already been
Mm-hmm.
like in this place. So I'm not like,
Right.
God, like,
You're right. It's me again.
right. So trying to fit my schedule is like remembering that everything else that I'm doing is fueled by what I do behind the scenes and not the other way
Right.
around. So like the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis are not going to motivate me to go back and like that needs to be the starting point, that I'm praying, spending time
Yes.
with God. And that's what gives me all that I need to carry out the other things with excellence and to the best of my ability. Because I can tell that I start
Yes.
slacking when I'm not doing that. And so
Yes.
basically, I like to try to treat it as though it's a mandatory part of my schedule, like something I can't go a day without. Even if it has to be
Yeah.
moved around in the day, like not the time I thought, it's
Mm-hmm.
something I'm not
Right.
going to go to bed until I'm done, even if it's just 10
Yeah.
minutes. Because some
Mm-hmm.
days you get busy, you get crammed, but
Yeah.
telling God,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
I still want to make sure I don't go a day without spending time with you. He's still going to honor that. He didn't put a time limit on us to say you have to spend 3
Yeah.
hours on your face on the floor for,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he didn't say that. That's not in
Mm-hmm.
scripture. But
Yeah.
it does say taste and see the Lord is good and give me this day my
Yeah.
daily bread. And so
Yes.
every day I'm trying to make it a habit. It's not yet, but
Yes.
I'm trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And God knows our heart too, but we just have to continue to chase after Him, and still with that chasing takes time. How do you keep your morals and your values while still learning new things in college?
It's kind of hard sometimes because you know you have a set of morals that you grew up with and you
Yeah.
were raised with,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to college and you're like, well, now I have the chance to like question everything. Yay! Like, you
Yes.
really make your own decision as to what you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. And I'm thankful that I have a strong foundation as to what those things are. But there are some things I've had to change my mindset on since being in college
Yeah.
that I was raised to believe that I don't necessarily believe the exact same way anymore. So in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of developing my own personal relationship with God, my morals and values kind of start to, you know, make themselves apparent when situations come up. So I'm no longer just doing it because my mom told me I should. It becomes I'm seeing the
Yes.
fruit of this in my life. I'm seeing the evidence of this truth in my life. And that's why I've made this a value of mine. That's why I made this moral choice, because I'm not just doing it because I'm told to. I'm doing it because I've seen God, you know, show up in those places. I've seen God be true to what his word says about these different things. Like obviously the
Yes.
Bible is the moral
Mm-hmm.
standard, but you know, until you actually see, you know, the fruits of that, it's kind of hard to just
Yeah.
do it because it says so. So in college, you have, I mean, even at a Christian college, you've got denominational differences. You've got people here that aren't Christians.
Mm-hmm.
You've got professors that believe differently than you. And you've got, like, we all
Yes.
obviously believe that Jesus died for our sins, rose like the gospel, but
Yeah.
other
Mm-hmm.
nuances vary. And so you really have
Oh
to take
yeah.
time on your own to decide, you know, what do I believe in these things? And a lot of it has just come from experience. If I'm choosing to pursue my relationship with God, I've had experiences where I'm able to decide for myself, Lord, what do you mean by this? How can I interpret, these scriptures or anything like that? So my morals kind of start to come from my worldview adjusting as I'm experiencing more in college. But it all goes back to, when I'm spending time with God, what is God convicting me about? Because everyone's not going to have the same convictions. Some things I can't do, God won't let me do, that he lets other people do. And so I can't put my convictions on other people. But in moments where something might be going on and I feel like convicted about something, I kind of have to lean into that and be like, Lord, is this really something that you're saying, like, it's not right for me to do? And it really comes down to, I think a lot of times as Christians, we sometimes get away with basing our morals on, will this send me to hell or something like that? But it's more important than just avoiding hell. Like, that's not the only thing we're trying to do here. I'm trying to live a set apart life for the Lord. And so, like, what does that look like? So you need the Holy Spirit to let you know what's for you and what's not for you.
What's not for you. That's right.
And some of your friends might be able to do things that you are not allowed to do, and vice versa. And so I just think it comes with time, and experiencing time in God's presence will make those times he's convicting you more apparent. You'll be able to recognize when we're like, maybe, some discernment, that's not for me, that's not of God. It just comes with time. But you have to be willing to, like, maybe not, maybe lay down some things, because your morals are changing. Because my convictions are also different than what my mom's were. And so some things my mom maybe taught me not to do in her house, not like craziness, but I mean, like, now that I've lived a little bit and I've, started to live on my own and experience different things, my convictions are different. And so it's not just a matter of, is this like a sin that'll send me to hell? It's more so like, is this pleasing? Is this going to align me with God's calling for my life? And so that's kind of how I like to think when I go for day to day. Because I'm in college, yes, for a degree, but also because I believe God has a call on my life and this is helping me get there. And so I don't want anything to get me off track of that.
Yeah. And also too, Sage, the deeper that you get into God and your relationship is the more nature that you get of him. And because of that, there's certain things that you refuse to do because you're more of his nature, and you know that God does not dwell in the unclean temple. And so it's like, other people could be doing certain things and you'd be like, not that you think that you're better. No, it's more so, and just as you alluded to, is that we have a calling. I mean, you have an assignment over your life. There comes responsibilities, and you have to do those assignments. And in that, there's certain things you just cannot do because you're making your spirit vulnerable to the adversary even more, and other aggressive demons. So we got to be more careful the deeper that we get into God and the more of his nature that we take on. As a student, are there some times that you feel like you're failing? And if so, how do you pick yourself up?
Yeah, as a student, I mean, beyond academics, because academics, you get a failing grade, that's one thing. I mean, and even in that, there is something there, because you do sometimes feel like a failure if your grades do not match up to what you were expecting. And so that's a big thing with college, where you have to give yourself so much grace, because this is a new environment. Like, this is a new experience. You are, like, on your own. You've got a bunch of new friends. You've got, like, you have a social life. And so finding that balance, you can very much feel like a failure when your academics, like, don't line up with that, especially because I feel like a lot of people grew up where academics were like the telltale sign that you're, like, doing what you're supposed to do. And if your grades are good, you're good. And so the moment you got a bad grade, it was like, I mean, at least for me, it was like, my parents didn't play that. And so I very much came out of high school going into college thinking like grades were like the thing, like the only thing that mattered. And then
not the knowledge, the grade.
Right. And I started to realize, like, that's not true. God doesn't determine how good or bad I'm doing based on how good or bad I did on a test. And I think that's one thing I really had to, like, set myself free from, was like, if I did my best and I put my best foot forward, then I succeeded, regardless as to whether I got the A or I have a 4.0, like it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to like also to balance your academic needs with other things. Because if at my freshman year, I was very much school driven, but I'm missing
Yeah,
out on
focused.
so
Mm-hmm.
many amazing opportunities that I'm not going to have again outside of college. And so
Yes.
sometimes I made decisions, maybe academically not the best decision, but I'm like, you kind of
Mm,
have to weigh what's most important in the moment. So not saying to not get your work done, never that. Do your work. That's why you're paying all that money
yes.
to like get that degree. But at the same time, don't make it like an idol where you just feel like the worst person ever, and you're a failure if you don't reach the expectation that you had. And I think a big
Right.
thing with me feeling like a failure a lot of times stem from, I think God's grading me like my professors do. And so even when it came to, my time
Mm,
spent with him, or it came to worship, I'm thinking God's like with his pen and paper grading how well I did. And so then I put so much pressure on
yeah.
myself to perform well for God, and it's
Mm-hmm.
exhausting. And that trickles into every area of my life. I'm having to perform for people, to meet people's expectations. I'm thinking, deceiving myself, I have to perform for God, for him to be pleased with me. And then I'm trying to perform academically to
Yes.
make my parents proud and all this stuff. And
Right.
it's like no, like this past year, I had to learn a lot about just giving myself when I fail in expectation, because I have to allow
Right.
God. Well, first of all, I had to dig up why I have such a hard time extending grace to myself, because I would just beat myself
Mm,
up. And it really just came from a
yeah.
deeper place. I oftentimes in my life growing up, I wasn't extended maybe grace that I should have been. And so I created the habit of being hard on myself when I'm not perfect. and
Yeah.
and then it comes down to, we're not perfect and we can't do anything without God. And so if I invite him into every situation, he'll give me wisdom as to what I need to be spending my time doing and what I need to be doing to balance that time and be a good steward, because I want to be a good steward of the time and the things that he's given me.
Yes.
So I don't want to
Yes.
neglect, all he's trying to teach me through college experience, because I'm spending all my time in my books and I'm missing out on everything.
Yes.
But also vice versa, I don't want to completely neglect, learning is important and education is important. So it really came down to like, God, help me to extend grace to myself and teach me how to walk this out in a way that's pleasing to you. And I'm still learning what that looks like, and I still beat myself up sometimes, and then I have to remember, like, I'm human, I fail, I need Jesus, and there's nothing wrong with
That's right.
that.
That's right.
um,
That's right.
so yeah, it's been a journey that I've been on, kind of stemming away from getting good grades and doing these things just for the sake of making someone proud, or just for the sake of making myself feel good about myself, or anything like that. I'm trying to get away from that performance aspect, and just more so, I do everything as unto the Lord. I want to make sure I'm offering my best to him. And
Yes.
so my mindset has had to change a lot.
Thank you, Sage. That was amazing. I know every college student that's out there just listening, I hope that you stay encouraged. Sage has dropped a lot of believer advice to us all that's in college, just struggling with, failing or your faith in God. So, Sage, thank you for pouring into us today. Thank you so much for being on Stopping the Silence.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you all for joining. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And again, look, we wish you the best blessings to you in your college season. You're going to come out on top and full of blessings.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for watching another episode of Stopping the Silence. Come again next Sunday with a new episode. Do not forget to follow us on our social media pages. And remember that you are not alone. Help us to help you to stop your silence. Stopping the Silence. Bye.